Hello out there, and today we are taking a look at a brand new Spyderco design. Do not adjust your screens, guys. This is not a sprint run, it's not a variation, not really at least. This is the Siren, a new knife from Spyderco, and gosh, it has been a while. I can't remember the last time I had a new model from Spyderco on this channel. I feel like it was the Brower last year. It just seems like so many of their stuff, so many things that they're coming out with are just variations and not too much new. At least not that I've been interested in, so it's pretty exciting to have this one in front of me. But speaking of interest, what's curious about this knife is it's a model that really wasn't one that called to me when I first saw it. It wasn't necessarily something that I was planning to get on this channel, but through circumstance, it has become a very special knife to me, and I will talk about that a little bit at the end of this video. But for now, I want to get into this one and talk about all the big key attributes and the important things that you need to know, starting with the basics, right? So this one, the Siren, is designed by Lance Clinton. He is a professional kayak fisherman, and he had previously designed the fixed blade called the Waterway. Very similar looking knife. I think this one is a little bit smaller than that, but it's a folding version, and that's what he was looking to do, is create something compact, something a little bit more easy to tote, I guess, than that bigger fixed blade. Some people have said that this knife is very reminiscent of the old Wayne Goddard model, and I saw a few pictures of that knife, and I definitely see that as well. So this really does sort of keep with some Spyderco tradition in that it is certainly looks like a design that they would make. So it is sort of classic Spyderco in that regard. But what we have is a knife that's a lot larger than what I would usually carry, to be honest. So this one has a cutting edge that comes in at around 3.6 inches overall. We're looking at almost 9 inches of total length, about 8.75. So if we're going to compare this to, say, the PM2, that's probably the best comparison that I have. You can see a very distinct difference in the cutting edge size, but then also overall, we're looking at over half an inch of additional total length. So that is definitely a big talking point. Some other comparisons, let's see what else we have on the table here. Honestly, not that much on the table today. Here is the smock. So, and I'm just lining up the tips of the knife so you can get an understanding. Certainly larger than the smock. Here is a mini grip because, well, why not? And give me a quick second. I'm going to open the drawer and see what is in here that might be a little bit on the larger size. Of course, not much. Here is the case shark tooth that I talked about recently. All right, so that's sort of comparable in some regards. All right, but the one thing that you're gonna really notice and appreciate when it comes to something that has this kind of size is that the weight is super low. This is a knife with no liners, so it's a lock back with just G10. And so when we're looking at the weight, it is going to be super agreeable, under 3.5 ounces, 3.47. So it sort of keeps with the philosophy of use in that it is going to be a knife for a fisherman, someone who doesn't want to carry a lot of heavy stuff. Looking at the PM2, which as we said was smaller, it is heavier. So this knife does not feel heavy at all. It feels super light. Feels like you're carrying air, which is definitely a good thing. So I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video, like an idiot, that I do have my stickers available, guys, and every time that you get one of my stickers, donate to the cause, that money goes to the family of Nick Maffei. If you watch to the end of this video, you'll understand why I'm mentioning it in this one, but this is an ongoing thing. It's available anytime, so if you are interested in the stickers, just donation style for a few bucks, I'll send them out your way, and the money will go to a good cause, that's for sure. All right? So let me know if you're interested at jtsknifelife@gmail.com. And the design is a very intentional one across the board when it comes to that use of being able to have it in water, being able to keep the grip, having that kind of utilitarian kind of look. I mean, it does look like a fishing knife just from like the blade shape and the design, but then there's a number of other attributes that just lend themselves to it being really good in that regard. So one of them, of course, is going to be the G10, but then also just the curvature of the frame, just this guard here. So it's really meant to be excellent in use when you have wet hands. So the question is, like me not needing to use this as a fisherman, and my guess is, although many of us do fish, and I say us, all right, I say us, but I haven't fished in a damn long time. But how is this going to translate as an actual EDC? Because that's the question. You know, like a lot of people, sure, will have this and use this for that intended purpose of a fishing knife, but how is it going to be in the pocket every day? Because that's how I'm going to carry it. That's the real question. And what do these characteristics do for EDC, not just for fishing? And I've got to say, guys, I'm a little bit surprised at just how much I've liked carrying this the couple days that I've had it. There are a few things that I was concerned about that I wouldn't like that I actually really do. So let's get further into it and talk about this blade here. So the big talking point with the blade is the steel, LC200N. Nobody who I've ever talked to has disliked the steel. Nobody. Everybody raves about it. They say that it's fantastic. What I've noticed in the couple models that I have is that it performs very well. I had that Native 5 lightweight, and I mean, I don't beat my knives up to the point where I can really tell the difference in edge retention with certain models, this and that, but that Native was perfectly functional. It did great. I think it would outperform a lot of the steels that we're used to and that we see on a lot of other models. The Spyderco Chef is probably the most noteworthy model that has LC200N, and people talk about it as it's the best, as if it's the best thing ever. So I think steel choice here is really good. Ultra corrosion resistant, obviously, but I think better in terms of holding edge than the H1 that they've used on a lot of previous models. A little bit of a glare here, guys. Sorry about that. I'll do my best to keep giving you different angles. All right. We also have a full flat grind on this blade, so it does come to a pretty thin termination. So it is good for slicing. Is going to be a pretty darn good functional knife. I really like the blade shape as well. So if you're thinking about like the use as far as like fishing, piercing, definitely going to be good for that. Slicing, even though you have just an elevated kind of edge versus where this guard is. If you're thinking about like using it, I'm trying to think of like fishing when you're using it on like railings or something, you know, cutting line, stuff like that. It's going to be perfect for that. So like, even though this might not be the best for food prep with this kind of situation here, you know, thinking about other ways that you'd be using it, it'd be just fine. One other big talking point is, well, take a look. We don't got no jimps. Moving on back, there ain't no jimps on this knife. Zero jimps. Where'd them jimps go today? I don't know, but we don't have any. So is that going to be a detrimental thing? When we get to ergos, you will find absolutely not. So I always like jimping. Jimping is one of those things that I look for on every single model, but I really appreciate a design that is so nicely thought out so that you can get it in hand without having jimping and have it be perfectly comfortable. And this knife is certainly that. And actually, let's just talk about it now because we're moving back to talk about these scales. So this G10 is a unique G10. Again, very intentional with the design of, hey, we want this to be able to stick in your hand when it is wet. So this is the coarsest G10 handle scale that I've probably ever seen from a Spyderco. It is super high traction. Now, what's been interesting about that though, is that, and I'm just gonna rub my thumb on this as I talk, just so you can see the skin. I mean, it is like pulling skin up, right? So it's going to do that. And what's funny about that, and maybe I have some calluses, sure, but it's not uncomfortable and it doesn't hurt. And I've been in those situations with G10 that was really coarse and high traction from some other companies that like it creates these hot spots and it creates a level of discomfort that maybe you want to be able to have that grippiness for like a tactical sense or like maybe something like this, fishing, sure. But it doesn't make it like comfortable to cut with for an extended period of time. And this knife, I mean, whatever they've done here, they've captured a way to make it super grippy and high traction, but still soft and comfortable. Now, I always have thought that the G10 on the Paramilitary 2 was, you know, pretty aggressive, and it is nothing compared to this. And while this will definitely shred some pockets, and so you might have to remove the clip and sand underneath it if you care about stuff like that. I don't. But But while you might need to do that in order to make it easier to pull in and out of pocket, I think the G10 as a whole is a big win. It's a big win. It's a real pleasant like change of pace, something different. If you're looking at an EDC knife, like there are a lot of things about this knife that are different, but the G10 is one that's different and positive in a way that I wasn't expecting. Other things about the G10, like I said, we have no liners. We do still have very good structure though. So while it looks like there are liners with this blue accent, it's not a liner, it's just the G10. Really good looking and really clean. The G10 backspacer here, I mean, this is executed nicely. So as far as manufacturing, this one is USA made, by the way, as well, which little bit of a surprise. I wasn't expecting that. So yeah, USA made, so it definitely has that going for it. The blue is just a really nice pop of color. And like I said, it's done very well. As we move on back, let's show you, I don't think I've closed the darn thing. So as we move on back, let's take a look. And here is the clip. So we do have a reversible deep carry, sort of, it's a loop over clip. Is it deep carry? We've got that lanyard hole. The good thing about this though, and I don't know if I'm different from all of you guys, but when I have a larger knife, I sort of expect a little bit more real estate sticking up. So this knife has not been a problem at all, like having that extra space. I'm really not that picky about my pocket clips either. I don't love a lanyard hole in the middle of like the lines of the knife. But that said, for again, what this knife is meant to be, it is sort of expected that it would be there. And I don't have a problem with it because again, the rest of the knife is functional as it is. And I sort of glossed over the ergos. I just talked about the scale and then bounced away. So let's sort of turn around and talk about that. All right, so here's the knife in my hand. Lots of extra real estate. So if you have larger hands, this knife will definitely work for you as well. You do have a myriad of points of contact just with these scales and all of the amount of traction that you can get with your fingertips, like pushing in. But then the guard here sort of has this like double intention in that one, it protects you from sliding up, but it also just locks the thing in like so well that, you know, you're going to be comfortable like this, maybe sliding around just a little bit. So the jimping would be useful, but not having it isn't a deal breaker at all. Also, you know, I think in a lot of cases you might be choked up and doing something like this. That wouldn't be a bad thing. And yeah, I mean, draw cuts, super comfortable in almost every configuration that I've held it in. So I'm very happy with that. Now, just take a look at the centering. Now the big thing, and the thing for me when it comes to lockbacks, is that like I sort of like to fidget with my knives, you know, and if a knife is fun to play with, it sort of like keeps it like near me and then therefore sort of keeps it in my pocket more often, right? Well, lockbacks don't really have that going for it. And so, you know, that might be part of the reason why the Native series has just never stuck around in my collection. This knife is not really designed with the idea of, hey, let's fidget with a knife. It's designed with an intention and a philosophy of use, right? Well, how is it then to open and close? It's pretty good. I mean, it works. And you're not going to buy this knife with the point of flipping around and playing with it. It is pretty smooth to open. Really nice, snappy kind of like sound when you when you lock it in. So very agreeable there. Lockup is really good. I have been able to flick this knife open just after lubricating it, so it can flick open. I haven't been able to Spidey flick it, so it's one of those things where, hey, I mean, that's the way it is. But one-handed opening, one-handed closing, no problem. So for the way that you're going to use the knife, you know, it's exactly what it should be. So if you're looking for something different, maybe this one isn't the one for you.
Back again with 30 seconds of non-stop, unadulterated, uninterrupted knife action. Can't Spidey flick. All right.
And overall, guys, I got to tell you, like this one, it wasn't the one for me. Not at first. And I wasn't really expecting to like this knife. It wasn't one that I was planning on getting for myself, like I said. And as I've carried it and as I've used it a little bit, I don't know, I just have come to appreciate this thing a whole lot more than I expected to already. And I only expect that that feeling will continue to grow over time. So as it is, I think the price point of these is $168. I might be completely wrong here. I don't know what the actual price is, and I'll talk about that in just a second because what was paid for this knife was a little bit different. But if you're looking for LC200N, or you're looking for a tool that's going to be like multifaceted and be a good EDC, but also, you know, really good on the water, I think this will talk to a lot of people. And what I've found in just the communication that I've had with people is that some people are super excited about it and some people really don't get it at all. And that's going to transition me into the story of how I got this knife and why I have this knife and why it's so special to me, because I was one of those people who I didn't really understand it at all. I'd been looking at the Spyderco reveals every time they were like revealing and announcing new products. And finally, you know, oh gosh, here we go. We're going to have a new model. And this one was announced like 6 months ago plus. I think it was like reveal 3 or something like that. It was way back then. And it's just taken a while to get to market. And I was like, finally a new model. And well, here you go. It's something that is a lockback, super big, like not really my kind of thing, not really my, you know, just not really going to work for me, right? But my buddy Nick Maffei, he was all about it. I can't tell you how many conversations I had with him about this knife. And every time it'd be something like, really? Like that? That's like, and he was like, get me that knife. Because I would get him the knives that had the number 90 on them. Like that's where he would get them from me. If you're not aware of that, you know, I'd sort of serve as a middleman. I'd be able to check out the knife, then send it to him. And he was like, yeah, get that Siren. He was really high on this model. And I really didn't understand it. You know, he was one of them who looked at it and was like, I have to have it. He was a big fan of the LC200N. He really likes its lockbacks, that sort of thing. Sure. And so the plan was to get this knife and, you know, do a review and then send it along to him. Well, obviously, as a lot of you know, like things happen, bad things. In the case of Nick, he isn't with us anymore. And so, so this knife, you know, still is going to come out. Like the world isn't stopping, but obviously, you know, this was something that I had talked with him a lot about this one, and I knew that he was excited about it. And so when he passed, I immediately thought, all right, I would get this knife, this number 90 that he was really looking forward to, and he loved the numbers on the knife. I would get this one and raffle it off, and that would be part of like my contribution to the fund to help his family out. Well, I thought that, and I said that, and then immediately after I did, I sort of realized that this was going to be something I'd want to keep for myself. Just a keepsake, sort of. I mean, this was supposed to be his knife. This was something that he was really looking forward to. And I had that selfish thought that I'd want to get it for myself and hold on to it. And I'm going to, and there's certainly going to be a couple things actually coming pretty soon now that we're going to raffle off to help his family. So that's very exciting. But so I have a substitute instead of this, but this is one that I ended up wanting for almost a different reason. And the number 90 Spyderco, I'm not the collector. The distributor who's the collector, they contact me, you know, at sometimes pretty regularly, you know, and I have the opportunity to get a number of knives from them, but they're running a business and they're trying to make it, you know, they're trying to make money, and these are really difficult times as well. So, you know, with some of these knives, the collectors are willing to pay a little bit more money for them just on the aftermarket, just because the collector's numbers on them, or because a lot of them, you know, knives, as we know with Spyderco, they sell out real quickly, like the smock, and then they're not available for like 5 months, right? So when knives first come out, they do just sort of fetch a higher price. And so I wasn't planning on getting this knife at all. I just was like, man, I don't think I'm going to be able to get it. Like, you know, I have a baby on the way. You know, we are still in uncertain times, even though I'm still working. Like, I'm not sure if that could change any time kind of thing, right? So it just wasn't going to be the most fiscally responsible decision. And so I wasn't going to pay for the knife. And lo and behold, a day or so later, you know, despite everything that's happening and despite any, you know, economic restraint that you need to have, my wife comes up to me and she says, "This should be your knife. I ordered it for you." So this number 90, you know, that Nick had been looking forward to so much, that really should have been his knife, and the plan was for it to be his knife. She wanted to make sure that that it ended up in my hands and just wasn't floating around out there. So now I have this, and it's a keepsake, and it's the last knife that we talked about that he was really excited about. So it's something I'll treasure, you know. And the more I think about it, the more it's just like, it's just awesome to have this. You know, I would chat with him every day and message with him constantly, and I think I communicated with him more than any other person besides like the people I work with and see every single day, and my wife, obviously, and that's it. So having this is going to be a special thing, and maybe one day, who knows, I'll raffle it off and throw it in to the pot to support his family. But I don't know. For now, it seems like this is one that's going to stick with me forever and just be one more kind of piece that reminds me of him in that relationship. So that's my talk about the Siren. If you stuck around to this point, guys, I really appreciate it. Even if you didn't and you're not watching right now and you watched the earlier video, thank you, even though you're not hearing this. But any questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, let me know down below. I really appreciate it, guys. Take care.